This is Diego Cordovez.
I'm Sean Feld.
Welcome to The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. And we've met with David Oppenheim the last 2 episodes, and he's given us some insight into the ultra-high stakes in Bobby's Room and the Larry Flynt game, and also just his progression up the ranks over the years, playing in the 50K horse, which he almost won and finished 3rd at the World Series. So if you missed parts 1 and 2, they're on Card Player TV, and we're going to roll into part 3. But I'm curious as to where, let's say you are playing in Bobby's Room or in a Larry Flynt game, or a very big game. Let's say you misplay a hand, or you play a hand in a certain way. Would someone from the game afterwards say something like, David, on that hand, you might have done, just kind of to talk about the hand?
The people who I'm like closer with are kind of, from that old school generation, like in the early 90s.
Every edge is an edge.
So, and I think it's just kind of in us to like not really discuss it. But, I have discussed hands with friends, and, I think you kind of have to bring it up, and then you'll have like an honest discussion about it. But if you don't bring it up, no one's going to point out, hey,
Right.
It's just kind of
it's
kind of in our DNA to like, not mention it because it's going to make the other player better, and this is what we do for a living. This is what we do for our survival, and no reason to make these people who are already great players and smart guys any better.
Right. I've always had the impression, which I think is accurate, which is that even though you're playing at high stakes with the normal ups and downs, you're a very good money manager. You've been able to consistently play at the high limits and manage your own life very well. Not like some guys we know that, of course, they're really taking the huge, gigantic swings in their life, even in how they're living. But I heard, or maybe I've seen you talk about a period where in that Larry Flynt game you just ran very poorly and took like a massive downswing, which I'm sure you could handle within your bankroll, but still, I don't care who it is, if you're losing 7 figures in a game that you think you should beat, it's got to affect you emotionally. What was that like?
I don't even remember. I mean, I remember, I know exactly. I think I lost like close to 2 million straight, and I want to say I think I lost like 12 times in a row, which has never happened. I mean, to this day, it's literally, that's by far. I don't even think I've ever lost 7 times in a row. So this was like a 12-time losing 12 times in a row. I lost like 1.8, and hey, I mean, listen, I've been doing it a long time, and I'm pretty aware of the swings. So, when you're going through it, it's difficult, but I'm also aware that, that's going to happen. You're going to have bad runs. You're going to have, a bad 30-day cycle, and you just kind of look at the long term.
But when you won in the 13th session, you must have been quite relieved.
I'm pretty good with that. Whenever like I have like those losing, I really try to focus on just getting any kind of win, just to leave there winning, and just have a different perspective and different frame of mind. So, I think it's pretty important for, a lot of, especially younger players, if something like that happens, they'll lose 12 times in a row, and they're really trying to like win all of those losses back on the 13th try, and they're pressing, and their game is probably suffering because of it, and that just comes with experience,
Right, there's nothing wrong with taking a small win.
Especially, on the 13th, you could, get, lose, never mind 1.8 million, but you could lose, let's say you're playing smaller and you lose 50,000 straight. There's nothing wrong with winning 1,500. Just getting out of there.
Did you? I mean, when you were in the midst of this, did you consciously try to do anything differently, or were you just going in just as if it was nothing different, same routine? And
I think I'm pretty good at self-examination, and I think when you lose 12 times in a row, it's maybe a time to like take a step back, no matter who you are, and see if maybe you're doing something wrong.
Right.
That it's not just the luck of the draw or the cards that are coming out, that that maybe, hey, things are kind of going a little haywire because of something that you're doing. Who's one of the best at that? I mean, amazingly enough, Phil Ivey's great at that. You know, he's great. You know, at taking a look at himself honestly. And there's other players who are, you know, atrocious at that. You know, they always, you ask them, they're always playing great.
It's always,
you know, they you know, yeah, they're broke and they've, you know, lost 2 million straight and haven't won for years, but they're still the best players, you know.
Right.
So
just like, can't believe the run.
You know, Phil Ivey loses 3 times in a row, and you know, he takes a step back and says, "Wow, you know, I'm not playing the best that I can."
What was your conclusion when you were playing?
When I had lost well, I mean, clearly, I
not
was
to
still,
dwell on it, but
I was still playing great. And, what's going on?
Right. So a lot of guys we talk to now, common theme is that they're forsaking college or careers because they started winning in poker, and now they're becoming full-time poker players. And I was interested to read that both of your parents were professional poker players, essentially. So, which is pretty unusual. You'd think that there'd be more kind of second generation, but we've talked to people who had parents who were into gambling or playing poker, but in your case they really were making their living playing poker. So how much did that influence you other than the obvious?
You know, I think it probably had a big influence on me, you know, even though it was maybe not even on a conscious level, you know. I mean, my parents played poker, you know, to kind of supplement their income my whole life as a kid growing up with them. So, you know, it was there, you know. I saw it and I kind of gravitated towards it. So I think it definitely had a big impact on what I ended up doing. I think if my parents didn't have poker in their life, there's a good chance I would have done something else.
You know, I've played with David's father. I've told you this.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, in Hollywood Park, you know, what I consider mid-limits, or David would consider
Micro.
Yeah.
Not really.
Micro.
Right.
When you first began to have success and to move out quickly, what was their reaction? I mean, my impression was that they were supplementing their income, as you say. They're supporting a family. They're grinding it out day by day. Very different from a young guy who suddenly is playing really big.
Right. What was their reaction? You know, my parents have always been very supportive of me, no matter, you know, what I did. It's just kind of the way that I was brought up. So I think they would have rather have seen me, you know, go on to medical school and become a doctor, especially, you know, when I was 19 years old or 20 and decided to quit going to school and, you know, just play poker, not really even with the plan of becoming a professional poker player, just kind of what I was doing. But, you know, first of all, you know, I think they kind of had the foresight to see that it would have been somewhat hypocritical of them to say, hey, you know, don't do this. So they were supportive. They definitely made it known that they think that I should go a different direction. But they were behind me. So
Thanks for joining us on The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. And it really has been, as we expected, very interesting to talk to David Oppenheim and gain insights into the real high-stakes world of cash games and hear about his life as well. So we're going to bring him back next week to wrap up this series, and we'll talk to you then.